Шановні пані і панове, я дуже рада запросити зараз до слова нашого наступного спікера, новообраний секретар Київської міської ради, юрист, поважний адвокат і член Вищої ради юстиції Olexiy Reznikov. Ми будемо говорити про нові підходи.
We'll be talking about new approaches and the work of Kyiv City Council, what has changed, what has to be changed. Yesterday there was the meeting of Kyiv City Council. What have the deputies approved for the benefit of Kyiv and Kyivites?
I welcome here our next speaker, the newly elected City Council Mayor Secretary, Mr. Olexiy Reznikov. Welcome.
Доброго дня.
Good afternoon. I was introduced already. I'm Olexiy Reznikov. I'm happy to see you to explain what is the philosophy starting from that period on in Kyiv City Council. I would like to remind you that Kyiv City Mayor Vitaly Klitschko, who's famous all over the world as the world champion, the person who has gained very serious victories in sports. We remember that in sports, competition is important. Without competition, the sportsmen are not trying to be better than the competitors. The same is true about myself as a person who has always been in private practice, and the company where I was the partner is one of the best in the market of law services, and the competition was pushing us into being the best for the client. And we understand for the city to develop, for the city to have money to the state budget, the money that would be then used for the city, for Kyiv, could be received from paying taxes, from business which is here. Again, when normal, healthy competition is present here, we all are talking about the necessity to attract investors who could ensure filling in the budget. For that, we need a normal, safe, and comfortable investment climate and the opportunities for development of competition. The competition is impossible if the decisions are made non-transparently, if any issue on getting permits, registrations, copies and certificates is over-regulated. And the most dangerous thing that we have in Ukraine is corruption. That is why Kyiv City Mayor and the team in Kyiv City Council have their objective to implement the tasks and programs on the basis of several main principles: legality, openness, transparency, and efficiency. To understand how that is to be implemented, for that I need to tell you about the main first steps which we are starting to implement. And that is reducing the volume of corruption, at least small and medium. It's impossible to overcome corruption completely. That's impossible. That was impossible to do all over the world. Even Singapore, where the corruption is minimum, they still have some corruption. That is why we can talk now about reduction the volumes of corruption. There is small corruption where the procedures are over-regulated, where a small civil servant can demand bribes, and that is what kills competition, that makes impossible for free business, for free entrepreneurship to be present here. And that is why both foreign and domestic investors who are ready in the regime of sound competition to win and to get something for the sake of what they are working, they are so important. The tax from private entrepreneurs is the tax that goes to the municipal budgets, with the exception of the city of Kyiv, because that is why there was one of the important decisions made for Kyiv, according to which Kyiv City Council yesterday came, addressed the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine and the Parliament of Ukraine as to immediate resolution of the issue of introducing amendments to the budget code of Ukraine so that the money that come to the that are paid as taxes from private entrepreneurs are left in the municipal budget in Kyiv. And that's clear, that's pragmatic, because the parliament, the cabinet of ministers, and other authorities are on the territory of not just the city, but on the territory of the capital of the state. And that is why they need to have the opportunity to comfortably and safely operate in the capital. But if the capital does not have money, cannot implement some of the tasks which it has to implement as the capital, because the capital is not just a regular city. Kyiv, it's also waiting a lot from the municipal authorities, and that is why we are talking about adding salaries to such social categories as teachers and doctors. That has always been a burden on the municipal budget. We will find resources to pay this extra money, but it's 8 billion hryvnias. That's a lot of money, and that is why we are asking that to the government. We are asking the government to do that now. In the parliament, there are some draft laws registered on amendments to the budget code, and we hope that our elder colleagues, the MPs of the parliament, will support us and will make a decision. They will pass this law. Now, talking about combating corruption, what else could be done? Simplification of the regulatory procedures. We are now reviewing all the procedures and protocols on the basis of which the Kyiv City Council is working, the Secretariat of the Kyiv City Council and other communal enterprises, in order to, having analyzed it, to simplify all the procedures, to minimize the regulatory acts which hamper, which slow down the normal development of entrepreneurship, the normal life of a person who comes to get services from the municipal authorities. Today, there is quite a good pilot program in Desnyansky region as to the so-called single one-stop shop. It's the center of providing administrative services. That is the program which is under the government as well. There's Association of Ukrainian Cities, but much depends on the political will of the heads of the municipalities. In some cities that's developed in Vinnytsia, for example, in Kyiv, formally that has been stated, but it is not operating. And so our task is to ensure that such program is realistically implemented. When a common person coming to this municipal authorities without any difficult procedures, without traveling to the left bank, then to the right bank, and then again to the left bank, could be able to get the service needed, either to get registered, to get a copy of some document, to get registered, or whatever. The first floor shouldn't be closed. It should be open for public, for all people, and people who are there, their task is to provide services to people like it's done in normal private business. The examples of such system is Tbilisi. That's this famous Palace of Justice. The same example is Singapore. That's not some invention. There is such a experience which is successful in other places, and it's very functional, and it can ensure the normal, sound, and efficient development of any person who wants to develop. Besides, we have registered. The decision is made on registering the new structure of the Secretariat, the Department on Combating Corruption. And now we are employing people to that department, and they are working on the provisions about the work of such department. It will be subordinate to the Secretariat, to me, as the deputy mayor. And the task will be to find the sources of shadow expenditures when the budget of Kyiv does not get money that it should get. I will give you one example. There are many of these small architectural forms which are called MAF. No one is against these MAFs if they provide jobs and services for people. That's normal. But when we find out that officially registered forms are less than realistically existing, and they exist because someone pays bribes, that's not normal. And when these forms, small architectural forms, which are selling food products, which are not packed, they do not have any norms of sanitary hygienic, any normal sanitary hygienic norms. They don't have even toilets, and they sell food for us. That is violating the norms. Another thing is using the electric supply. They do not pay money for electricity. The city does not get money via Kyivstar because via the system of paying to someone, paying bribes, they get electricity, and the city doesn't get anything from that. And there are many examples of that. In Kyiv municipality, in the Kyiv City Council, there is the resolution of Mr. Klitschko, because Klitschko is the Kyiv mayor and is appointed by the president, and so there will be, he issued an order about creating a department which will be doing audit of all communal services. And again, this will be the audit of whether their revenues are realistic and how they spend the money and why the city budget lacks money. You all know the problem of parking. We know that sometimes there are people who have nothing to do with parking, and they're collecting money, and Kyivites are paying for the parking, but not all that money goes to the city budget. We all remember the program when there were evacuators that were removing the cars if they were parked in the place where it was prohibited. From the point of view of idea, the idea was great because of these evacuators. The places were freed, and they were freeing certain lines in the road, and so it was easier for the traffic. But there was a problem because the law that regulates the traffic, there was no norm that would allow mandatory to take somebody else's property. And these evacuators were working without legal basis, and that is why this program was stopped. And because there were many claims against them, and legally, usually the claimant would win, because the claimant would say that illegally my property was taken away and they are demanding me to pay money to get my car back. Today, the representatives of Udar faction, the MPs understand, and Vitaly Klitschko is the leader of Udar party, you remember, so they have developed a draft law, and we hope that the Verkhovna Rada will vote for that, and that will introduce amendments to the legislation which will regulate traffic, which will allow the local authorities legally, mandatory together with the traffic police, they will allow to evacuate those cars that violate the rules, traffic rules, parking in illegally. So these evacuators of Butichka, that's what they call in Prague, which this is something that immobilizes the movement for the car until the fine is paid. It's clear that not always the militia men can exercise their functions always. That is why the program of New Kyiv authorities includes the proposal from the society to create a real municipal law enforcement bodies. I do not call them militia or police. That is not so important how it will be called, but we are talking about municipal law enforcement bodies. Let's recollect the events in autumn or winter during Maidan. And during these events in the streets of Kiev, when there were some people who we call titushkas and Kievites were organizing the self-defense units, not just in the center of the city, but in any region of Kiev. And that shows that Ukrainian people are able to self-organize and to ensure their security. If Kiev is the capital, and the Kiev authorities have to develop Kiev so that the city has to defend. And for the city to defend, it should have its own municipal law enforcement bodies. They will communicate with the state law enforcement bodies. Any normal country says that the municipality will get support of the voters, and it is supported by the voters if such municipal authorities protect and defend people in the city. So that's briefly, and now I can answer your questions. Thank you.
Probably you know quite well that the most painful problem for Kiev, there is allocation of land plots. And now so many sites in Kiev are spoiled with wrong allocation of land plots. And whether you plans, whether you have some strategy for the development in the historical part of Kiev. Now we are finalizing our work on the master layout for the city and master city plan, and we have coordinated a lot of issues related to the general national interests. I'm not ready to announce the exact date, but I expect that in mid-September we will make a presentation of this master plan. And I agree with you that the new development, new construction development is now chaotic, and we would like to be a city where allocation of land plots is predictable, especially for construction and development. What is important that Kyiv requires master plan for the city development, and which will prevent any discretionary sales of land plots. Also, we keep in mind that all the issues related to the land use will be kept under strong control. We will continue the lease agreements for lease of land and to collect rent payments, which is one of the revenue sources for the city budget. And also we will review the applications for land plots from private landholders, especially elderly people who have been waiting during 6-7 years now to get their land. As for the preservation of the historical appearance of the city, we do not have the architect-in-chief for the city. Now we are searching for such a person. We want to have a person who is unbiased, who is not promoting his or her private architectural bureau. That is, we are looking for a person who is ready to reject from private professional practice. Like me, for example, suspended my professional activity, and I suspended my partnership in the in law firm, although the law does not require from me all these steps. But I wanted to be unbiased in all my actions. That's why the same is true for the architect-in-chief for Kyiv, Serhiy Melnichuk from Krizovy Center. You know that the city starts from the cloakroom, and the city starts with the transportation system. I am not sure whether you use the metro system of Kyiv, but I use metro. In Poznyaki, there is crime happening in Poznyaki metro station, which processes some 40,000 people per day. Unfortunately, the entry to the station is almost totally blocked by amateur vendors. And all this stream of people which is going to the metro doors has to pass this endless line of vendors with food which is located directly on the ground, etc. There is a complete chaos on the ground, and the entry is almost totally blocked. I had a chance to stay for a long period of time and to travel to Europe, to London, to many other cities. Actually, these small kiosks, these are typically Ukrainian peculiarity, and which you never can see in Europe, almost cannot see them. And if you pay attention and put an objective for ourselves to employ those 20 people who are employed in this small kiosk, while not keeping in mind the problems of those 20,000 whose entry to the metro station is blocked with that kiosks, I think that's not right. Well, I will first answer your second question because the answer is quite clear about those MAFs, about those kiosks. The idea is, it's quite clear that we won't immediately overcome the problem of MAFs. Because obviously this will increase unemployment, but the idea is to register all those MAFs, and those which remain unregistered, we announce the war to those MAFs, and the law enforcement agencies will insistently come and forcibly remove those MAFs. Of course, this is not a war against all the MAFs, but against those who are unregistered and unofficial. So that is, we want to develop a standard, the standards for all MAFs. If you sell flowers, then your standard is like this. If you sell greenery, then your standard should be similar to the Zurich one, to the Paris standards, etc. Even in Paris, close to the Eiffel Tower, you can see the sellers, the street vendors. Even in London, I kept buying T-shirts as souvenirs in the streets. I don't wish to argue with you. Maybe my position here does not coincide with yours. But as for those street vendors, I have heard your idea. When the law enforcement officer approaches to such an elderly lady who sells vegetables from the ground, and this elderly lady claims that she has no means to survive, then you also understand this position, but I understand your position, and in the nearest our meeting, which will be with the leaders of the sector departments in our secretariat, I will discuss this issue, why, and we will try to understand why it persists.
We have time for one more question only. The councils of Maidan. Do you know about the secret plan of disseminating Maidan? I can report you there's no secret plan on disseminating Maidan. This is the principal position of Vitaly Klitschko. Maidan can never be disseminated. Maidan is still in the heads and hearts of everyone. Besides, there should be the memorial complex set up there, but there should be the compromise achieved that Krishchatyk and other streets are to be freed for traffic voluntarily. There should be the compromise achieved, because the first days of Maidan in 2004, the Kyivats were the first ones to go to the streets, and the first days of 2013, these were Kyivites who started Maidan. And Kyivites today at all the meetings ask the question. They are saying, we were at Maidan, but it is very uncomfortable, inconvenient to move along the city. So the requirement to Kyiv authorities is ensure normal traffic, but this will not be done forcefully, only through negotiations. There's memorandum signed with representatives of the Sotniks of Maidan, and only via compromise to help people who are there, because everyone has own Maidan. I'm ready in the end, if you allow me. I'm ready to give your objections. I'm not the participant of that memorandum. I will give all your advice and wishes. Thank you. The yesterday's meeting of Kyiv City Council showed that the new quality of people approving new decisions. We thank you as the new secretary, and we'll looking forward to see you here with the report about the activities of new council.